Most people think buying meat is simple. You walk into a store, grab what looks good, check the price, and keep moving. That's it. No second thought, no questions. Because to most people, meat is just meat. And if it's sitting on the shelf in Canada, it must be fine, right? That's what most people believe. But here's the truth. Where you buy your meat might matter more than the meat itself. And once you understand why, you may never shop the same way again. Now, this isn't about fear. It's about something much deeper. Awareness. Because food is one of the few things in life that literally becomes part of you. Your body builds from it, repairs from it, lives from it. And yet, for something that important, most people spend more time researching a phone than understanding the food they eat every week. Now think about your last grocery trip. You stood there looking at different packs of chicken, beef, or steak, some cheaper, some more expensive, some labeled local, some labeled premium, and without realizing it, you made a decision in seconds. But what was that decision based on? Price? Color? Habit? Because what most people don't realize is that the real difference in meat often starts long before you ever see it, long before it touches the shelf, long before that price sticker gets placed on it. It starts in the system behind it, and not every system is built the same. Now stay with me, because this part matters. Canada has one of the strongest food inspection systems in the world. Strong regulations, strict oversight, structured systems, and that's important. But here's where people get confused. Strong regulation does not mean every place handles meat the same way. It doesn't mean every supplier follows the same standard of care. And it definitely doesn't mean every store gives the same level of freshness, handling, or sourcing. That's the part most Canadians never stop to think about. And honestly, why would they? Life is busy. People are trying to survive, trying to budget, trying to feed their families, and in times like these, price becomes powerful. Especially after food inflation hit hard between 2021 and 2023. People felt it. Every cart cost more. Every receipt felt heavier. And suddenly, saving money became part of survival. But here's the uncomfortable question. What if the cheapest meat is costing you in ways you don't see? Not necessarily in danger, but in quality, freshness, handling, and long-term value. Because when stores compete hard on price, something has to give. And this is where the story changes. Not every place selling meat should be where you buy it. And the people who understand that shop differently. Not because they're richer, not because they're experts, but because they learn to look beyond the package. And once you see what they see, everything changes. Because the question isn't, where is meat cheapest? The real question is, where is meat treated right before it reaches me? And that question changes everything. Now here's where most people make the first mistake. They assume the best place to buy meat means the most expensive place. That if the lights are brighter, the packaging looks cleaner, the branding looks premium, then the quality must be better. But that's not always true, and that's where a lot of money gets wasted, because price and quality are not the same thing. Sometimes they meet, sometimes they don't. And if you've ever bought an expensive cut of meat, took it home, cooked it carefully, and still felt disappointed, you know exactly what that feels like. That moment when you take the first bite and realize something's off. Not bad, just not what you expected. And here's why. Because quality meat is not just about the cut. It's about the journey, how it was sourced, how long it traveled, how it was stored, how often it changed temperature. That journey matters a lot. Now think about this. Two identical cuts of beef can look almost the same on the outside, but carry completely different stories behind them. One may have been processed, stored, shipped across multiple locations, and repackaged. The other may have gone through fewer hands, shorter travel, better handling, less time sitting, and that difference shows up where it matters most. Taste, texture, freshness. Now this is why the smartest buyers in Canada don't just buy meat, they study the source. And no, you don't need to become an expert butcher, but you do need to notice patterns, because the best places to buy meat usually share something in common. And it's not flashy, it's consistency. The meat looks consistent, the staff know the product, the turnover is active. People trust the place, and trust in food is earned, not marketed. Now here's where it gets interesting. The places many experienced buyers trust most are often not the places shouting the loudest, not always the giant promotions, not always the huge special deal signs. Sometimes it's the quiet places, the butcher that's been there for years, the local meat counter where staff know what came in that morning, the store where people line up, not because it's cheap, but because it's dependable. And dependability, especially with food, is everything. Because when you feed yourself or your children, you're making a trust decision, not just a purchase. And most people never frame it that way. But once you do, you stop shopping the same. You start asking better questions. And that's where the smartest buying begins. But now comes the real question. What places in Canada actually deserve that trust? Because not all stores are equal, and some stand out for reasons most people overlook. So where should you actually buy your meat? That's the question, isn't it? Because once you realize not every place handles meat the same way, you start looking at stores differently. And this is where most people expect a simple answer. A list, a name, a shortcut. But the truth is, the best place to buy meat in Canada usually falls into 3 categories. And once you understand them, you'll know exactly what to look for. The first, local butcher shops. Now listen, not every butcher is equal, but when a butcher is good, you feel it immediately. You walk in and there's something different, not louder, different. The smell is cleaner, the cuts look intentional, the staff know their product, not because they memorized a label, but because they work with it every day. And when you ask, where is this from? They know. That matters, because knowledge in food usually means involvement. And involvement usually means care. Now the second category is grocery stores with strong in-house meat departments. This is important. Not every major chain is the same. Some stores bring in better stock, rotate faster, and maintain stronger handling practices at the local level. That's why one location can feel very different from another, even under the same company name. And if you've ever noticed one store's meat always looks fresher, that's not your imagination. That's management, turnover, discipline. Now watch this. The smartest buyers don't just look at price tags, they look at movement. Is the meat section active? Are people buying? Is staff constantly rotating product? Because active movement often means fresher stock, and freshness is value, not just price, value. Now the third category might surprise you, farm direct buying. More Canadians have started exploring this over the last few years. Especially after the food supply pressure between 2020 and 2023 made people think differently about where food comes from. Buying directly from local farms or farm-connected markets gives people something they often don't get in major stores. Traceability. You know the source, you know the region. Sometimes you know the exact farm, and that changes trust completely, because when food has a face behind it, it feels different. More accountable, more human, and maybe that's what this whole conversation is really about. Not meat, trust, because in the end, food is trust, and the places you buy from are telling you what they value. Speed, volume, price, care, that's what you're choosing, even when you don't realize it. But there's one more thing, something even more important than where you buy. Because even in the best store, people still miss the signs. And once you understand those signs, you stop guessing completely. Now this is where everything comes together. Because even if you walk into the right place, most people still shop the same way. Quick glance, quick grab, move on. And that habit is what keeps people from ever really seeing the difference. So let's slow this down for a moment, because once you understand these small signals, you stop guessing completely. The first thing is color. Now most people think bright red means fresh, but that's not always true. Sometimes that color is maintained through packaging methods designed to preserve appearance, not necessarily freshness. Real freshness often looks slightly different, more natural, less perfect. And once you've seen that difference, you can't unsee it. Now look at texture. Does the meat look firm, or does it look like it's been sitting? Is there excess liquid in the package? Because that liquid tells a story. It tells you about time, handling, storage conditions, and most people walk right past it. Now watch this. Look at how the meat is displayed. Is it packed tightly, almost compressed? Or does it look like it was handled with care? These are small things, but small things add up. Now here's something even more important. Smell. Not something most people check in a grocery store, but one of the oldest indicators of quality. In places where meat is handled well, there's usually very little smell at all. Clean, neutral, and that tells you something about how it's been managed. Now step back for a second, because this is the real shift. You're no longer just picking meat, you're reading signals. And once you learn to read those signals, you stop relying on guesswork. Now let's bring this full circle. Across Canada, the food system is strong, regulated, structured, reliable. But within that system, there are layers, and your experience depends on which layer you choose. So when someone asks, "Where should I buy my meat?" the real answer is this: buy from places that show care. Buy from places with movement. Buy from places where people know what they're selling. Because those signals rarely lie. And once you start paying attention, you realize something simple but powerful. You were never limited to one option. You just needed to see the difference. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever noticed a difference between stores, but never really knew why? Or is this the first time you're thinking about it this way? Drop your thoughts below, because your experience might help someone else make a better choice. And if you want more videos like this, the kind that take everyday decisions and show you what's really behind them, stay with me. Because there's a lot more happening around you than most people ever stop.